Okay, good morning, everybody. I don't know exactly what Mark told about me, but I'm quite sure it was nice things. I hope so. Anyway, I think he did some of the things I will tell you now. I will speak in English. Sorry for that, because I'm a little bit of Catalan now. I don't speak any word of Catalan. And that's the first question, who I am. So Mark taught some of these things. Actually, yes. During 20 years, I was a fire officer in France, in the south of France. This type of fire officer, you know, all of you know that, that has some issue on fires, on every type of disasters. And you have lots of data, and you have to take very quick decisions in less than 15 or sometimes 10 seconds. You have to take a very important decisions with lots of data. And then I decided, well, this is exciting, but it's a little bit tiring. So I decided to do something else, and I started a PhD. That is to say that during some years I was a researcher, which is totally different. The world of research is the contrary. I mean, you have some data, and when somebody asks you a question, you can say, well, I will answer you in 2 days, 2 weeks, or even 2 months. I'm not in a rush to do that. Well, it's relaxing, definitely relaxing position. Actually, I just completed a PhD on operational implications of extreme wildfire. And now, what I am doing, well, I'm a bit of this strange creature, half firefighter, half researcher, probably none of both. I'm also half French, working for the SAFE cluster in Aix-en-Provence, and a little bit of Catalan, working with the Pau Costa Foundation. So my challenge is every morning I'm wondering for designers, should I have a piece of French cheese or pan con tomato? This is the question I wonder every morning. Actually, I'm working on different European projects, such as Firing, which the aim of is to connect firefighter with research to, let's say, orient the next agenda for research and innovation. And I'm also working on Open to Preserve, which is a very interesting project on prescribed burning in Portugal, Spain, and southwest of Europe. Where I'm from, this is another key point. As Marx said, I'm coming from Marseille area, and as you can see on this picture, this is in the south of France. We'll come back on this in a few minutes, but you know, we have two France, and there is a border between both, between the Mediterranean area, where we have olive oil on our bread, when the northern ones have butter. But except for that, it has been understood for long that south of France is where we have the fire risk. The Mediterranean area is the area at risk. And I heard my colleague from Portugal saying that the number of fire we have per inhabitant in France is definitely lower than what they have in Portugal. I would say yes, but the area at risk is reduced to this Mediterranean part of France. Almost. That is what we were thinking up to some years ago. I will be back on that in a moment. Because what you asked me to do today is to comment the French strategy, French firefighting strategy. And actually, this strategy started in the 80s after some extreme fire, well, some very big fires we had in the 80s. And our system was not organized, and the communication were very poor, and it was a mess. And so some political guys after this fire said, okay, you firefighter, you have to get organized to fight with fires. And this is where the strategy started. And you know, when in France, when somebody has an idea, especially if he's a politician, he's somebody important, in few time, that will be a law, guidance, because you won't be surprised if I mention that France is a very pyramid system. And when somebody take a decision at the very top of the system, everybody will apply the rules. A little bit different of what's happened in this country, it looks, but so in the 90s, we're starting with this national strategy, national guidance, a common operational framework. This is to say that everybody is fighting fires in exactly the same way in France. Everybody has the same common training, and this is all these documents. And from the first level of firefighter to the highest commander, you are going to the same school, learning the same things, and learning to fight fires in the same way. And what do we learn? We learn that the strategy is based on basically two pillars. First pillar is early detection. What does that mean? It means that we have lookout towers, now we have cameras, we have lots of resources to watch the landscape during summer and to raise the alarm as soon as there is a smoke starting from somewhere. On top of that, we have our weather forecast system, Météo France, who has a very competent team that implement every day the risk for every single small area in this southeastern Mediterranean part of France. And when Météo France said to us, well, this part is going to be very risky today, it's red, which is very severe risk, and even there it will be an exceptional risk, very high, very, very high risk. Well, we say, okay, because this is in risk from, let's say, 11 in the morning to 4 p.m., we'll put planes, and planes will patrol on top this area so that within 10 minutes they will be able to drop retardant on the fire if there is a fire starting there. And that's how we do with this early detection. And then there is a second pillar. And the second pillar is massive attack. Very, very massive attack. The idea is as soon as we have a fire starting, we'll put all the resources we have on the fire. And we can have, in 15 minutes, hundreds of firefighters arriving with their trucks, their big trucks, bigger and bigger trucks, and a couple of planes. Actually, it's not a couple. It's we'll send this 1 or 2 planes with retardant, but within 10 minutes we can send even 4, 6, up to 8 Canadaires with water. This is the way we fight fire. Very aggressive fighting strategy. What are the results? Is it working? Yeah, it is. I mean, have you ever heard a French guy saying that the French system is not good? No, and I don't want to be the first one to say that. So yeah, it's working. I mean, if you are looking at the figures from 1977, so before the strategy was implied, up to now, there is this major trends in decreasing in the area burnt every year. So it's working. Actually, the system is good. That's what the French guy has to say. But maybe there are some limits to that. And, well, that's the good thing with statistics. Things that scientists know well is that you can take the statistics and tell what you want to tell with the statistics. So when you extract from this first figure, this first graph, the before the new strategy arena, you're starting in 1991 when the strategy was implied. And you look at the results. First thing you see is that obviously there is this interesting peak there. 2003, the bad year in France. So you were talking about 1998 here. So for us it was 2003. And we burned definitely more than we had before. So it looks like this is the first failure in the system. Then if you
modify a little bit the way you do your tendency curves, well, you can arrive to this point where 2016 and 2017 are showing that the curve could get back to a rising tendency. And I saw the figures from here in Catalonia, from this compañeros, the department de Agricultura, at the beginning of this conference. I would say that you presented something like that. But, you know, in France, with this aggressive, very aggressive strategy, we have kind of tendency to increase back. So, why? Why do we have kind of a limit in the system? As I said to you, the second pillar, massive strategy, massive attack strategy, is based on our aerial resources force, as the Portuguese one, probably. What is this aerial forces? 23 aircraft. So 9 trackers and 2 Dash. They are filled with retardant, and they are the one who patrolled the fires not the fire, the patrol the risky area. And then we have 12 Canadaires, the one we will send to fight the fire when it has started. And as I said to you before, we don't want one Canadair to be on a fire. We want a wave of Canadair. We want lots of Canadair arriving together. So that is to say that if you have one Canadair isolated, it's useless for the system. So what do? We have this this coordination center who is coordinating these aerial resources for the south of France. And we are putting the resources in a very central point. Now it's Nîmes. But obviously, because we have some risk in Corsica and we can have some risk in the very top east or very top west of the zone, sometimes we delocated some planes. And well, it has been working for these last 20 years. It worked most of the time when the situation is something common with this area being at risk and not too much the rest of France. But now, what happened when this is the situation that could happen? We are the colleagues from UK that were talking about their risk and their fire. Sometimes we can have this situation. So it was in 2011, and as you can see, not that much risk in the south of France. This is the IFIS evaluation of risk every day. But at this period, the risk was definitely in the north of France and UK and Sweden, etc. So what can we do for that? It's easy to deal with. We just put our aerial resources from there and put them to there. Tomorrow the risk will be there. Okay, we'll put our aerial resources there. We can do that. It's not an issue, and we do that often. Not this very north part of France, because this is in April and the risk was not so high at the map could say, but we can delocate our resources, we can do that. But what should we do when this is the situation? That is to say that we have this very high risk with red and even black points in some parts of the south of France. I'm not talking about Spain, who was all red or black. But in the same time, we have risk in this area and this area. And there, you know, we have something that is called Bordeaux, and we don't want our Bordeaux landscape to burn. There is a big pressure to keep our Bordeaux wine. And this is Burgundy also. So we don't want to lose our landscape. And I'm joking on that, but it's a reality that we have a very, very high political pressure when there is some risk in this southwest area or other area, even if the risk is not so high than it is in Mediterranean area, to take planes and put planes there, because planes are very political. I mean, people want to have planes on fire. And we have to do that. Whatever we are happy or not with that, Paris said, oh, well, I'll send 2 planes there, and send 1 or 2 planes there. And what do we have? We have also Corsica in risk, so we have to send 2 or 3 planes there. And as I said to you, we don't have these unlimited resources of planes. And that's where the system can collapse. And that's where the system collapses, sometimes, really. And there are some examples of, let's say, system collapsing. Marseille 2017. Actually, the name of the fire is not Marseille, it's Rognac fire, because it started in Rognac, a small city, 10 kilometers in the north of Marseille, at the very top of the slide. I don't know if you can see the slide, but this pattern is the pattern of the fire in red, and the black things are just wildland urban interfaces. It's just Marseille. Marseille, 1 million inhabitants, the second biggest city in France. And we had this fire that just arrived in Marseille, and half the side of the fire, the right flank, was in Marseille, in wildland urban interfaces. 16 kilometers of wildland urban interfaces in less than 3 hours, in something like 2 hours and a half. How could you deal with 16 kilometers of just houses and buildings disseminating on these flanks with very rapid fires? How can you deal with that? You cannot. You can just not do anything. And why? Why did we have this situation? Just because it was one of these days where we had risk in different parts of the area, including in the southwest. So some part of the planes were not there, not in Marseille area where they should be normally. And we had several fires starting in the same time, and the plane just arrived 3 minutes too late. I watched the video of this fire. We have a drone also flying on the fire, and we have all the image of the fire. And we just see that if the plane had arrived let's say 4 minutes sooner, it would have stopped the fire. It would just have been less than 10 hectares fires. Finally, 2,663 hectares, 60 buildings destroyed, a school, and lots of destruction. Not far from that, Toulon, 1 year before. Not a busy year. 2015 was not a busy year, but anyway, one fire escaped. And you saw this guy, just campers, being there on holidays on the south shore. They had to escape. 10,000 campers evacuating in some time because of a fire escaping. So definitely the system can collapse, and it collapses sometimes. If we look at this from another perspective, that's what I did in my PhD. I definitely focused on firefighter entrapment. And, well, probably not necessary to read all the figures there, but it's just to show you that from 90 to last year's, we have firefighter entrapment almost every year. Almost every year we lost colleagues or friends on fires, and sometimes we definitely lost them. I mean, we have the third line is appliances, trucks destroyed. The second one is injured people, and the first one is death. So we sometimes have people dying on fire. Still now, when we are probably the country in the world where the firefighters are the most equipped with materials. I mean, the clothes we wear are very protective, very heavy to wear. The trucks, this is not a French truck actually, but the trucks we have are very, very protected. We cannot protect the trucks more than we do now. We have shower, we have pressurized air in the cabins, we have all these things. But we still lost guys on fire. So there is an issue. There is an issue we have to solve. And because the title of this presentation is Challenge for the Firefighting Strategy, the question is how do we address this issue, this challenge, and where to find the solutions. So, as Mark said, I left to Australia during 1 year. It was last year in 2017. I spent 1 year in Australia doing some research on extreme fires and their implication on firefighter entrapment. And it's interesting to mention something I saw there. I won't say that the solution is there. I just say that we can find probably some good opportunities exchanging knowledge. And I would say that there are 3 ideas I will mention. The first one is manage the land. Second is understand fires, and the third one, and probably the most important, is involve communities. We'll be back on that in a minute. Manage the land. Well, we have all seen this type of pictures of a landscape change in the last century. Actually, this is not in the Mediterranean part of France. This is in the Alps. Very nice place where you can go skiing now. Beginning of the 20th century, and a couple of years ago, the same picture. What do we see? Obviously, you see things that all of you have studied, I'm quite sure, there for years, where we had pastorals activity and agricultural activity. Now we just have forest, and on top of that, we just have people living in the forest because they want to live in the forest, but they don't want to do any agriculture. What can we do to solve this major issue? Well, the first thing is prescribed burnings. I am a strong supporter of prescribed burnings. We are not that much in France. More and more, I would say, more and more technical units doing what you do here for a couple of decades now. We are building the same type of teams of prescribed burning, technical teams with firefighter, forest fires, forest engineers to support the agricultural activity that need our support to do prescribed burning. So, okay, is it the solution to manage the land? Well, a few years ago I would have answered, yeah, that's a solution, and we need to purge that and to burn everything we can burn during the winter. But this couple of years and months, a little bit of changing my mind. Well, first thing is prescribed burning is air pollution. I mean, when you are in the middle of the US or Australia, maybe it's not so challenging. But when you are 10 kilometers from Marseille or Barcelona or whatever you are in our Mediterranean area, in the South Europe countries, can you imagine doing a big prescribed burnings and polluted 1 million inhabitant city? Probably not. And it's going to be a restriction we have to consider. And more, I would say, ecological association and health protective association are militing against prescribed burnings. And they are right. I mean, we cannot forget that and let that on the side. So we can improve the way we burn. We can burn when the conditions are good for the smoke to be dispersed or not to going to the city. But we have to definitely consider that more and more it will be a restriction we have to consider. And then the second point is, most of you know that prescribed burning is interesting if you put some animals after on the land. Where will we find these cows, sheep, goats, donkeys, or whatever, I don't know, to paste and to graze all these lands that were abandoned in Catalonia, in France, and everywhere? So we can burn a little bit, we can have fuel breaks, things like that, but I don't think we'll manage all our lands with prescribed burning. Unfortunately, I think we have to find solutions somewhere else. I don't have any answer to that. I just let you with that point regarding managing the land, but I think definitely this is a key issue we have to move on in the years to come. Then the second point, especially for responder, for firefighter, is understand fires. So that's something we have discussed several times this morning, and this is why it's very good to have people like Sarah explaining where research is, and these researchers helping us to understand what happened. So we need to understand more the different type of fire. So these different types of fire is a terminology I heard from you, from Mark, and from the GRAPH team. So you are totally familiar with that, even if part of the scientific community don't agree at all with this terminology. But anyway, so I won't learn you anything about topography fire. We just say to you that in my study, what I discovered is that all the entrapment we had of firefighter during this type of fire behavior. That is to say, when the fire behaves as a topography-driven fire at the moment of the firefighter entrapment, it was on slope steeper than 20 degrees, and the firefighter were above the fire line or above the spotting fires. This is one of the points you have to consider, because this is to say that when a fire is a topography-driven fire, at the time we are considering the scene, if you are on a slope steeper than 20 degrees, you can have this extreme behavior and fires channeling or behaving as an eruption, fire eruption. Okay, I hurry up. Less than 4 minutes. Yeah, I will be on time. Wind-driven fires. The most current fire we have in France and maybe in some part of Catalonia also. So we thought this were the fire we knew the best, and we knew exactly how this fire behaves. What the Australians have found is that on this type of fire, when the fire reaches a line, a ridge, sorry, and when the slope behind the ridge is again more than 20 degrees steep, the fire is having this strange behavior on vorticity-driven lateral spread. And again, I've fought a certain number of firefighter entrapment in this condition, and that's something we totally negliged up to now. This picture was taken in Corsica, so it's evident that this fire driven by this wind, the white arrow, did kind of this spotting activity on the very lateral part of the fire. And then we have this plume-driven fire. We have talking about pyrocumulonimbus several times this morning, so I won't go further on that. Mark said what has to be said on that. This is a major issue, and we have to put lots of energy. Energy, yeah, that's the problem of the issue with this fire. That's energy, but we have to put lots of energy on research on this type of fire. We have to understand better how it behaves, why, and I'm more confident that Mark is, and I hope that in some time we will be able to predict this type of fire, the where and when. Hopefully we will. Finally, I won't take much time for that, but definitely this is the most important point. We have to involve the communities. Why? Because we saw that we are getting to these more and more extreme fires. We saw that firefighters still getting trapped, and we saw that firefighters in certain conditions just cannot do anything. But this is not what we have said to people, especially in France. For years we said to them, well, don't worry. If there is a risky situation, just don't go in the forest. Don't light any fires. And then if something happens, the firefighter will be there. We have planes, we have trucks, we will take care of the fires. We have to change our way to disseminate this information. This is what the Australian discovered and after this Black Saturday, 2009, where they lost 170 people in 1 hour, just 2 villages totally out of the map. They discovered that they just couldn't do anything to face this type of fire, or the fire you had last year in Portugal. But what they can do, and what they have to do, is to make the population aware of that situation. That is to say that probably our job of us, firefighter, politicians, and everybody, will be in the next year to prepare people for that. Saying that, well, prepare, act, survive, that's the Australian way to say things, but saying in sometimes firefighter will just not be there. So you have to be prepared for that. You have to be able to know what you have to do. And when, during a fire, we have to be definitely proactive on social media, for example. Back on this fire in Portugal last year, and Mark showed us this tragical picture of people being entrapped on the road. This road, somebody told to these people that they have to take this road and not another one because the fire would entrap them and they would be safe on this road. I'm quite sure that somebody knew that the fire was about to reach this road, but this guy was just not connected with the one telling that to people. And because we are knowing more and better how fire behave, I think there is somebody that knew where the fire could go. And what will happen tomorrow if the same situation occurs again? If 20 or 30 people are trapped on the road and they know, or their family know that somebody knew where the fire was going to go, we have to address that, because we will, you will as a fire officer, as a policymaker, you will be charged for that, for sure. You will be charged not to having put the information on social media, because it's the very rapid way to disseminate information. So we have to be very proactive during fire and to work on that. And to conclude, I would just consider this Aboriginal saying from Australia. This earth I never damage, I look after, fire is nothing, just clean up. So it's not the proverb by itself, it's just a way to mention that during 4,000 years, Aboriginal people in Australia just took care about the earth. 4,000 years. So it's a very long history. And they knew a lot about fire, about the earth, and about everything. They were very more clever than we are. But I'm quite sure that with all the knowledge we have now, all the science and all the networking we can do, I'm quite sure we can go back to a more interesting way to consider the earth and consider fire as a normal way, as a normal situation, and to be more clever with fires. And that's it. Thank you. Merci.